As the sun set over the Judean hills, the village buzzed with excitement. Lanterns flickered, casting a golden glow. Tonight was the long-awaited wedding feast. 10 young women, chosen as attendants, waited with lamps in hand. 5 were wise, bringing extra oil. 5 were foolish, bringing only their lamps, certain the bridegroom would come quickly. As the hours crept by, the initial excitement in the village began to wane, replaced by a quiet, watchful stillness. The moon climbed higher in the sky, a silent witness to the patient vigil. The 10 virgins sat together, their chatter slowly fading into soft murmurs and then into silence. The night grew cooler, and a gentle breeze whispered through the narrow streets, making the flames in their lamps dance. The bridegroom was taking longer than anyone had expected. The wise virgins glanced at their extra flasks of oil, a quiet reassurance in the growing darkness. They felt the weight of the wait, but their preparedness gave them a sense of peace and calm. The foolish virgins, however, started to grow restless. Zillah shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting toward the empty road where the bridegroom's procession was supposed to appear. A seed of doubt began to sprout in her heart. She looked at her lamp, noticing with a pang of anxiety that the flame was not as bright as it had been. The oil was burning low. Her friends felt it too. The reality of their lack of foresight began to dawn on them, casting a shadow over their once joyful mood. They tried to laugh and tell stories to pass the time, but their laughter sounded hollow, their voices laced with a growing unease they could no longer hide. The scriptures tell us what happened next. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. The long, uneventful hours took their toll on everyone. One by one, the young women, both wise and foolish, succumbed to their exhaustion. Their heads drooped, and their bodies slumped onto the benches where they sat. The village fell into a deep, profound silence, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the gentle flicker of the 10 small lamps. Their flames cast long, dancing shadows against the walls, a fragile defense against the encroaching darkness of the deep night. In their slumber they were all the same, dreamers waiting for a call. But even in sleep, the difference between them remained. The wise virgins slept with a peaceful conscience, their extra flasks of oil resting securely beside them. Their preparation had given them the freedom to rest without anxiety. The foolish virgins, on the other hand, slept a troubled sleep. Their last waking thoughts had been of their dwindling oil and the bridegroom's delay. Their dreams were likely filled with shadows of worry and regret. Their lamps, untended and running low, flickered weakly, threatening to go out at any moment, leaving them completely in the dark and wholly unprepared for what was to come. Suddenly the deep silence of the night was shattered. At midnight there was a cry, "Behold the bridegroom! Come out to meet him!" The shout echoed through the village, jolting everyone from their sleep. The 10 virgins sprang to their feet, their hearts pounding in their chests. This was the moment they had been waiting for all night long. The time had finally come. The wise virgins, though startled, were immediately ready. They quickly trimmed the wicks of their lamps, their hands steady and sure. Their flames, fed by fresh oil from their flasks, burned brightly, casting a brilliant and welcoming light into the darkness. Their faces shone with joy and relief. The foolish virgins, however, were thrown into a state of panic. Their lamps were sputtering and dying. The scripture says, "Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps." But for the foolish, there was little left to trim. Their wicks were charred, and their lamps were nearly empty. A cold dread washed over them as they saw the bright, steady flames of their companions. "Give us some of your oil," they pleaded desperately, turning to the wise virgins, their voices trembling, "for our lamps are going out." Their carefree attitude had evaporated, replaced by the bitter taste of fear and the harsh reality of their unpreparedness. The wise virgins looked at their friends with sorrow and compassion in their eyes. But they knew they could not grant their request. Hadassah spoke gently but firmly, her voice full of regret. "No," she said, shaking her head. "There will not be enough for us and for you. Go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves." It was not a selfish act, but a practical one. If they shared their oil, none of the lamps would last long enough to light the procession. Their duty was to the bridegroom, and they had to be ready to fulfill it. They could not risk failing because of the poor planning of others. Their wisdom demanded a difficult but necessary choice. With heavy hearts, the 5 foolish virgins turned and ran. They rushed frantically through the dark, sleeping village, searching for a merchant who might still be awake at this late hour. Every closed door and dark window was a testament to their folly. Panic fueled their steps as the sounds of the approaching procession grew louder in the distance. They had to find oil, and they had to find it now. They had missed the most crucial part of their duty, to be ready. Now they were racing against time itself, their hopes dwindling with every desperate step they took into the lonely, unforgiving night. While the foolish virgins were away on their desperate search, the bridegroom arrived. The air filled with music, laughter, and joyous shouts as his procession entered the village. The 5 wise virgins, their lamps held high and burning brightly, joined the celebration. They proudly took their place, their light illuminating the path for the bridegroom and all the guests. They entered the wedding hall, and the sounds of feasting and merriment spilled out into the night. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, the beautiful culmination of a long and patient wait. Then, as the last guest entered, the heavy wooden door to the banquet hall was closed and barred from the inside. Sometime later, the 5 foolish virgins finally returned, clutching newly bought flasks of oil. They were breathless and exhausted, but a small flicker of hope remained. They had their oil now. They hurried to the door of the feast, their lamps now lit. But they were met with a dreadful silence from within. The joyous music was muffled, distant. They knocked on the heavy door, their knuckles rapping against the wood. "Lord, Lord, open to us," they cried out, their voices filled with desperation. They could hear the celebration inside, a painful reminder of what they were missing. They were outside, alone in the cold darkness. From within the hall, a voice answered, calm and final. It was the voice of the bridegroom, but he answered, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you." The words struck the 5 foolish virgins like a physical blow. They were not just words of rejection, they were a declaration of their status as outsiders. They had not been there when he arrived. They had not been ready to welcome him. In the most important moment, they were absent, and now they were unknown to him. The door remained shut. The sound of their own weeping was the only answer to their pleas, a heartbreaking melody of regret that faded into the night. The story of these 10 women serves as a powerful and timeless lesson for us all. We must live our lives in a state of readiness, with our hearts prepared and our faith burning brightly. We cannot rely on the preparations of others or assume we will have time to get ready later. The call can come at any moment, like a cry at midnight. We must always be watchful, for we do not know the day or the hour. Let us be like the wise, who kept watch with patience and foresight, so that when the door is opened, we are ready to enter into the joy of the feast and not be left outside in the darkness.